Many involved in the production have pointed to one disturbing detail as the origin of the curse: the use of real human skeletons in the infamous swimming pool scene. We can start with the fact that the actor who played the Tin Man was poisoned during production. Besides wearing a heavy metal costume, the makeup team applied aluminum dust directly onto his skin, which caused him lifelong respiratory problems, with a series of misfortunes that seem far from coincidental. To begin with, 2 separate planes carrying cast members were struck by lightning. The incidents didn't cause any major damage, but just days later, one of the film's producers was hit by a 3rd bolt of lightning, this time in Italy, during production. Poltergeist is the most popular cursed film out there, the one that truly popularized the concept of cursed movies in Hollywood. And for good reason. The story behind it is deeply disturbing. It all began with 2 mysterious deaths of actresses involved in the production. Dominique Dunne, who made her film debut in Poltergeist, is widely considered the first victim of the so-called curse. On October 30th, 1982, just a few months after the film's release, the 22-year-old actress was strangled by her ex-boyfriend during an argument. She fell into a coma and died 5 days later from brain death. Then there's Heather O'Rourke, the child star of the franchise, who appeared in all 3 Poltergeist films. Shortly after the release of Poltergeist 3 in 1988, she died suddenly from cardiac arrest and septic shock caused by an undiagnosed congenital intestinal obstruction. The list of tragic fates doesn't end there. Julian Beck, who appeared in Poltergeist 2, was diagnosed with stomach cancer during production and died soon after. Will Sampson, also featured in the sequel, passed away due to complications following an organ transplant. Many involved in the production have pointed to one disturbing detail as the origin of the curse: the use of real human skeletons in the infamous swimming pool scene. According to crew members, this unsettling decision may have invited the misfortune that followed. The Crow is another film widely believed to be cursed, most notoriously due to the tragic onset death of its star, Brandon Lee. During the filming of a dramatic shootout scene, Lee was fatally shot with a prop gun that had been improperly prepared. The incident became one of the most infamous accidents in Hollywood history. But the tragedy didn't end there. The production of The Crow was plagued by a series of misfortunes. 2 electricians suffered severe burns in a wiring accident, and a hurricane destroyed parts of the film's set. Some have speculated that the curse goes back to Brandon's father, the legendary Bruce Lee, who also died during the filming of his final movie nearly 2 decades earlier. And then there's the urban legend. According to some sources, the production team allegedly received a chilling voicemail from an anonymous caller warning that terrible things would happen if they continued with the shoot. The Exorcist. One of the greatest horror films ever made, this movie marked a turning point in cinema, terrifying audiences in an era already gripped by fear of demonic possession and exorcisms. And it's precisely this diabolical premise that many believe triggered a curse surrounding the movie. From its inception, The Exorcist has been considered a cursed film due to the numerous strange occurrences reported during and after production. Tapes mysteriously erased themselves, light bulbs shattered without cause, ominous noises and eerie voices bled into the microphones, objects vanished without explanation, and perhaps most disturbingly, a massive fire broke out at Warner Brothers Studios, destroying much of the film's set, except, oddly, for Reagan's bedroom. Rumors also claim that several crew members died under mysterious circumstances during or after the film's completion. But the darkest chapter of the so-called curse involves actress Mercedes McCambridge, who provided the demonic voice for Reagan. Years later, in 1987, her son, John Markle, committed a gruesome murder-suicide, killing his wife and children before taking his own life, all while wearing a blood-soaked Halloween mask discovered by investigators at the scene. Twilight Zone the movie is the cinematic version of the renowned TV franchise, a show that was my favorite growing up. I think I've watched every episode at least 3 times. Directed by Steven Spielberg in 1983 and featuring several well-known filmmakers, the movie is unfortunately remembered for a horrifying incident that gave it a reputation for being cursed. During the filming of one of the early segments, actor Vic Morrow and two Vietnamese children, aged 6 and 7, who had been hired illegally, were killed in a tragic on-set accident. A helicopter lost control and crashed during a scene, resulting in the children being crushed and Morrow being decapitated by the rotor blades. The incident was so infamous that legal proceedings against those responsible dragged on for over a decade. The aftermath also led to tighter safety regulations in Hollywood, and for many years stunt coordinators avoided using helicopters in dangerous scenes altogether. The Wizard of Oz has become a true children's classic in the history of cinema. But behind all the joy and color, it's considered the most cursed children's movie ever made, hiding terrifying stories about what the cast went through during filming, along with very disturbing urban legends. We can start with the fact that the actor who played the Tin Man was poisoned during production. Besides wearing a heavy metal costume, the makeup team applied aluminum dust directly onto his skin, which caused him lifelong respiratory problems. The actress who played the Wicked Witch also went through hell. The green paint used for her makeup led to skin infections, and during a fire stunt, she suffered second-degree burns. Finally, the lead actress, Judy Garland, began using illicit substances during filming just to endure the long shooting hours. This eventually led to a severe addiction and her premature death by overdose. In more recent years, there's also been talk about a scene in the movie where a hanging figure can be seen in the background, supposedly someone who took their own life on set due to personal issues and whose body remained there while the scene was filmed. While this is mostly considered an urban legend, what's certainly true is that the filming of The Wizard of Oz was a nightmare and caused lifelong damage to several of its cast members. Apocalypse Now is known as one of the most chaotic productions in film history, marked by heart attacks, loose tigers, suicide attempts, typhoons, and illicit substances, all while starring Marlon Brando. The shoot took place in the Philippines, and from the very beginning, a mysterious local curse seemed to take hold of the film after rumors spread that real human corpses had been used on set. In response, a local shaman warned that a curse would fall upon everyone involved in the production. The first to be affected was Martin Sheen, who collapsed from a heart attack shortly after getting drunk, punching a mirror, and cutting his head open. The chaos of the production caused the film's budget to double. The stress of the looming financial collapse if the movie failed, combined with the director's personal issues, led him to the brink of suicide and seriously considering abandoning the project. Other problems included elaborate sets that took months to build and were destroyed in mere hours, the actor's own vices and excesses, and the infamous moment when a live tiger was released inside a plane carrying the entire production crew. The Omen is a movie that tells the story of a child who turns out to be the Antichrist, an idea that earned it instant status as a horror classic. But it's also remembered as one of the most ill-fated productions in film history, with a series of misfortunes that seem far from coincidental. To begin with, two separate planes carrying cast members were struck by lightning. The incidents didn't cause any major damage, but just days later, one of the film's producers was hit by a third bolt of lightning, this time in Italy, during production. As if that weren't enough, one of the planes the crew was supposed to take was swapped out at the last minute. Disturbingly, that original aircraft crashed shortly afterward, killing everyone on board. The curse continued when the lead actors were dining at a restaurant they often visited, only to narrowly escape a bombing that hit the location. Even more chilling, another bombing occurred at the hotel where they were staying. The incidents kept piling up. A handler in charge of working with the film's animals was suddenly attacked by the dogs used on set. But the most horrifying moment came when Liz Moore, assistant to the special effects designer, was involved in a brutal car accident alongside her boss. She was decapitated in the crash. The truly macabre detail in The Omen is that there's a graphic decapitation scene, one that was designed by the same man who witnessed Liz's death. A Bell from Hell is a Spanish horror film marked by a tragic event involving its director. The man wanted to film the final scene of the movie at the top of a bell tower in a Galician church that was said to be under a strange curse. It was an unfinished church because the stonemason who had been building it fell from the bell tower and died in the process. Legend has it that anyone who tried to complete the church would suffer the same fate. The director ignored the warning, and in order to shoot the scene, he ordered a fake tower to be built where the gap was, connecting it to the real structure with a makeshift walkway. While attempting to film a shot from above, the director stood on the walkway and, while trying to make a strange maneuver, fell and died instantly, just as the legend had foretold.